I have very strict instructions to keep this running on time because we have a lot of very important people, of which I'm not one, here this morning. So I'm Fred Hines. I'm the president and CEO of Clarity Child Guidance Center. We are just exhilarated by the crowd. We're really excited about this. We're gathered today to launch a community-wide anti-stigma campaign for children's mental health. The campaign, and you may see the banner up here, I sure hope you can see the banner up here, is designed to increase awareness of a deep community need and to provide you with the knowledge and tools in which to talk openly about children's mental illness. Creating a dialogue, a community conversation, will help to eliminate the stigma associated with children's mental health. Stigma creates silence, and unfortunately, silence creates barriers to care. The campaign is called 1 in 5 Minds because 1 in 5 children will suffer from a mental, emotional, or behavioral disorder. For decades, children have typically gone untreated, only to drop out of school, self-medicate with drugs and alcohol, or become incarcerated. One of the saddest stats that I've read is a study conducted by Kaiser Permanente, and it revealed that the link between mental health and physical health is so intertwined that those suffering from chronic mental illness die 25 years earlier than their counterparts. And in fact, in the Texas Tribune this morning, there was a speaker yesterday at the legislature who pointed out that in Texas, it's not just 25 years sooner, it's 29 years sooner. I would challenge that all of these factors compel us to step up now and make a difference. Why would we allow even one more child to suffer needlessly? You can be a part of the solution by pledging to end stigma, and we'll share details on that in a moment. Several community leaders have stepped forward to become advocates for children's mental illness. They have agreed to start the dialogue in the community by tweeting, posting on Facebook, emailing, and sharing the message of 1 in 5 Minds with their friends, family, colleagues, and partners. Look for their communication to start this week and continue throughout the year. We are so pleased to share that the advocates who have signed up thus far include, and just kind of wave when I mention your name here, our own Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolff. And for some reason this next person couldn't be here. I think it has something to do with what's going on in Austin, but State Senator Letitia Van de Putte. And excitingly, I think I saw him back talking to the press a minute ago, our Congressman Joaquin Castro. Somebody who you all know from television for years in San Antonio, Ms. Amparo Ortiz. And unfortunately, again, ended up not being able to make it here at the last minute, was 2-time world champion boxer Jesse James Leha. 386 District Court Judge Laura Parker. The Director of Guidance and Counseling Services for the Northside Independent School District, Dr. Deborah Healy. You may remember him as our former Chief of Police, but now he's the Vice President of Corporate Services and Security Division for Valero Energy Corporation, Mr. Alf Lippis. The Professor-in-Chief of the Division in Child and Adolescent Psychiatry in the Department of Psychiatry of the University of Texas Health Science Center. You know, academically we give titles instead of money. Dr. Steve Pliska. And Jackie Vandewally, who's the lifetime Assistant Vice President for the San Antonio Livestock Exposition, which is the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo, and unfortunately she got sick this morning and isn't here. But if you'd give a quick thank you to all of those folks, and we appreciate that. Thank you all for being the inaugural members of our advocate team. We hope that in the years to come, you look upon this moment as the beginning of a tremendous change where children's mental health is actively discussed in our community. At this time, we'd also like to recognize Paul Brochu, our board chair, and our committed volunteer board members who give so much of themselves to our mission. Board members, you can wave too, please. Thank you all. As a representative of Clarity Child Guidance Center, a nonprofit that helps children ages 3 to 17 who suffer from mental illness, we want to assure you that this campaign is for the kids. In fact, while we are sponsoring this campaign, our website links all of the community resources that are available to families in need in this campaign. We feel strongly that as experts in children's mental health, we can no longer sit idly by, allowing the stigma that has been built over decades to continue. And we invite you to join us on that journey. Probably the best way we can share what inspired us to start this campaign is to allow you to glimpse into the life of a family that has struggled with mental illness. A very rare glimpse given the active stigma that exists. I'd like to introduce you to Lisa, a brave, strong, loving mother who is sharing her story with you today.
I have a 19-year-old son who has Tourette's syndrome. He's got anxiety disorder, generalized depression. When the symptoms first started, automatically denial. My husband is very traditional, so a lot of denial on his part. That's behavioral issues, don't worry about it, it'll pass. My mother-in-law believed that if you could rub an egg over them or sweep them with a broom, that this would all go away. For me to step out and to seek treatment for the children was against their norm and against their culture. I was very concerned and very worried, but kept it to myself. I felt like people would look down on us, that we had behavioral issues with our kiddos that we couldn't fix ourselves. Maybe I was doing something wrong. Maybe it was our parenting skills, because I didn't want to admit that it could be a mental illness, even though I felt like it was. People don't understand mental illness. People don't see mental illness as a form of illness, period. It makes people very uncomfortable to talk about what's going on in my family. So I tend to keep it to myself. My son doesn't have any friends. No matter how clear he is now or how well he is now, that stigma has stayed with him, because people don't see mental illness as truly as what it is. It's the same to me as somebody diagnosed with cancer or heart disease. Society doesn't view it that way, for whatever reason. It's very difficult to find your way through the system. You're pretty much left on your own. You're not well versed in the system of psychiatric care. You don't know, well, what's the next step? And then sometimes you're afraid to ask friends. Nobody talks about it. So there's no one really to relate to of what are your resources? Who have what do you think? If the word was out there that there are support groups, that there is help, and that you can ask, parents wouldn't have to go through what we went through, which is nights of crying and nights of not sleeping and being at home with no answers and wondering if we're doing the right thing. When you start talking about mental illness, it's almost like the doors are closed. And you got to know the secret code to get in there. There is so much hope. When I got to the treatment, it was when they came in and began to talk to me about all the options and all the things they could do for him, I just sat there and cried, because it was like all my answers that I needed were here all the time, but no one showed me the way. And I was able to just sit there and tell them about, a couple of years of things that have gone on with him. I remember going home the night after I left that first day and sleeping better than I had slept in years, and knowing that I was in the right place. We had finally found that that key to unlocking that door of what we have been living with by ourselves for so long. So things at home are peaceful, but we've got a plan. We know what we're doing. It's such a relief. We live a hard life, but you learn to deal with it, and you just accept it. And I just wish everybody had the education and the knowledge to know it's okay. I wish I'd have gotten help sooner, because I think a lot of those years of anxiety and crying and just our stubbornness of this can't be happening to us, and being able to step up and say, yeah, it is happening, and you know what? Our family is just as enriched and full as anybody else's. And we can get through this. But you have to have help. And we could never do this by ourselves. It's such a relief to be able to talk about it and get that feedback and that reassurance that you're not the only one. We're going to get you through this. You know, this is the way it's supposed to be. And that, you know, we know there's professional help and not all wives' tales. I really believe if we hadn't have gotten counseling for the kiddos and our family therapy and counseling, we would have been divorced. Kids that don't get treatment commit suicide, or they wind up in jail, or they're homeless, or they're on the street somewhere. If they don't go to school, they drop out of school. If we could speak freely about mental health or mental illness, kids would stay in school. Kids would get up and look for jobs and not feel like they're less than anybody else. It just gets put down to the bottom. And they're the ones that need help the most. The community needs to rally up around it because it's just a horrible place that we're in with our kiddos.
Won't you agree with me that Lisa's family is indeed as enriched and full as anyone else's? And please join me in honoring Lisa and her family and their ability to stand up for the fight for stigma. I appreciate your nice response to that. I really meant the fight against stigma, not for stigma. And now, for how you can make a difference. Just visit oneinminds.org, our website, or like us on Facebook. On the website, you can pledge to end stigma, learn about the issues, and be a part of the solution. Once you pledge, you'll receive information periodically that you can share with others. We promise we won't overwhelm you with stuff. And now, a man who is so revered and respected in our community. I remember when I first met Judge Wolf, long before he was Judge Wolf. I've been here a long time. We went up to the state legislature, and he had just come out of the state legislature. There was not a door that was not open to him and welcoming him. Back in 1972, he was named the Outstanding Man of the Year by the San Antonio Jaycees. 40 years later, he was named a Legacy Leader by the San Antonio Business Journal. He's an incredible leader, the author of 4 books, including one titled Baseball for Real Men. So please join me in welcoming Judge Nelson Wolff.
Well, thank you, Fred. And Fred's been a great leader in the community for a long time. We've gone back to various organizations that we've worked on together, one of them being Planned Parenthood. I appreciate the great work that has been done with Fred and the Clarity Child Guidance Center. I was talking to one of your volunteers, and the mother of 2 children has received treatment, and she told me what a great difference that's made in their lives, just as it's made in the life of Lisa. So it is important for parents to recognize that early on and to seek at least diagnosis of it and not just blank it out. I come from a generation that pretty well blanked out mental illness and didn't think there was anything wrong with people. They could solve it themselves. But we know much different today that it is indeed an illness that needs to be treated. As we know in Texas, we don't do very well, as we don't do very well in many other areas, I might add. Texas ranks last in children's mental health spending among all the states. We spend something like $18 per capita, where the average in other states is somewhere around $100. You see a great debate going on today, and that's about Medicaid expansion. 25 to 30% of our people here in Bexar County do not have any health insurance. So far, the state has said they're not going to accept it. That's a tragedy. It's a big mistake. It's damaging lives of thousands and thousands of people across this state by not providing those services to them when, in fact, the federal government is paying 100% of that for the first 3 years and then 90% thereafter. So I would encourage you to work hard to get the Medicaid expansion and to bring help to people in our community that do not have it today or are afraid maybe to go to our hospital. We are responsible. Bexar County has a great responsibility, and our greatest responsibility is to take care of people who have been damaged either physically, mentally, or by drug abuse. And we've tried in the last 11 years that I've been county judge to totally change our system of what we're doing in our criminal justice system. We've created drug courts, mental health courts, veterans courts, trying to treat people rather than throw them into the largest mental health institution in Bexar County, which is the Bexar County Jail. We've been successful to some extent on that. We had over 4,000 people in jail 10 years ago. Today we have 3,400 people, and we got 350,000 more people. So we're treating people rather than trying to incarcerate them and make it worse for them. You cannot totally separate the mental illness of the child and the mental health of the family, the mother and the father. So we try to concentrate on both of those through our Bexar County Hospital system, which does business as University Health System. We just allocated in 2008 some $900 million worth of improvements to that system. By far the largest building and improvements of anything in Bexar County's history. We continue to support the Center for Healthcare Services and the work that they're doing, trying to help treat mental illness. Aurora Sanchez, who heads up our department, has put together a mental health consortium and works on that every week in trying to bring as many services as possible to people that are suffering from mental illness. And I'm glad you're doing this campaign because there still is a reluctance. And Lisa said that right. I probably would have been in the same state of mind as her husband 20 or 30 years ago and said, no, we can cure it ourselves. We don't need any help. There's a stigma. Stay away from it. We were all wrong. We were wrong in our era. Lisa was right. And you saw what the difference it made in her family. So I would encourage all of you to do two things. Let's certainly support this campaign, trying to help remove that stigma in the community. And at the same time, I hope you will speak up for what's right for the people of Bexar County and Texas, and speak up for the Medicaid expansion so we can bring help to many, many more people. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Wolf. We appreciate your advocacy and your support. Next, I'd like to introduce another gentleman who has been extremely supportive of mental health issues through a pretty long career in the state legislature, and now we're excited to have him representing us in Washington. I know he was confronted with requests for about 14 different legislative proposals when he walked through the door this morning, but now we'd really like to welcome and thank for being here, because he's got a busy schedule today, Congressman Joaquin Castro.
Thank you, Fred, and to all the folks from Clarity, such an incredible institution for the children of Bexar County and beyond, and to Kim, to Christine, to everybody I've met over the last few years working on mental health issues. Thank you for toughing it out, for being such incredible advocates for mental health in San Antonio and beyond, and for our kids especially. And to Nelson, you know, Fred, you introduced Nelson and said that he received a JC Award in 1972. Well, Nelson, I wasn't born until 1974, so you were getting awards before I was even born. Congratulations. And still getting awards, and still doing a wonderful job for our county. You know, I was proud in 2011 to author legislation that would have covered serious emotional disturbances in children and had Texas insurers cover those serious emotional disturbances, because we know that there are many kids who are quietly suffering, who often get labeled as troubled or misbehaving, We also know that there are families who are also suffering, trying to manage those kids. I met with many families during the time that after I filed this legislation, who literally told me that they were fearful of their kids. They didn't know what to do with them. Many times they were ready to give up. Their routine was often having their kids in and out of the hospital, sometimes in the emergency room. There was no way to accommodate the kids except for a brief 2 or 3 day stay in the hospital, and then they would come back home, and once again, the parents were often in fear. This state has to do better with mental health. We rank dead last of all the states in the nation, not only in the number of people that we insure, we are dead last. 25% of people in this state, 1 out of every 4 kids and adults, has absolutely no health care coverage. And the counties see that because we all deal as taxpayers with spreading the cost and covering everybody who comes to the emergency room naturally because they have no health care coverage. So, I thank Nelson for making the point that Medicaid needs to be expanded in Texas. This state has the most to gain if Governor Perry accepts those billions of dollars in Medicaid funding, $100 billion over 10 years. It is unconscionable for any state politician to deny literally 4 or 5 million people health care coverage that is 100% paid for through 2017, 100% paid for, and you have one person saying to these millions of folks, I'm not going to let you have it. And that includes a lot of coverage for mental health issues through Medicaid. So I hope that you will let your voices be heard, that you will petition state government and state leaders to make sure they know that there's a lot at stake. Because we know that in Bexar County, for example, there are 80,000 kids who are suffering from some kind of mental health issue, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's bipolar disorder, PTSD, whatever it is, that range of issues that they face, those issues should be treated in the same way that we treat physical illnesses. It's easy to see if somebody's got a broken arm. It's much harder to discern whether somebody is suffering from bipolar disorder or anxiety or something else. So we've got to do a better job not only of funding these things, but also making it more acceptable to come forward, making sure that the professionals in our schools and other institutions are better able to recognize these problems so that they can speak with the families and the families can help the kids get treatment early on. So I'm very proud to support Fred, you guys at Clarity, this 1 in 5 Minds campaign. Please go to the page on Facebook. As soon as I leave here, I'll get on my phone and do that, but not while I'm driving. I'll get on my phone and make sure that I like the Facebook page, that I get onto the Twitter account, that I personally do every single thing that I can. I want to continue championing these issues as I did in the state legislature. However I can be helpful in Congress, in Washington, I will. Thank you guys very much for doing this, and God bless all of you.